Hello, ActiveSage here on the Sage channel, and I'm here today to show you guys my mega fortress. It's a huge, incomplete, massive fortress that sometime in the future I'll actually get around to continue, and they've added a few more different types of blocks that I'm pretty sure are coming. Now, this fortress is sort of just an experiment in, well, mass. Not just straight up mass, either just out to the left and right, and also a experimentation with arches. So if I fly back around to the bright side, because it's a bit hard to see what is going on with all this stuff in the dark, you get over here and you'll see that I have bunches and bunches of arches. And unfortunately, they're not really set up as an arch should be, where you have the weight of what's above it coming down at the center point of the arch. These are just sort of for looks, because obviously structural integrity is turned off in this world. In fact, if we were to press in, yes, it lags a bit, and when structural integrity finally comes on, you can see pretty much everything on this thing is just ready to explode. So if I go ahead and do try to turn on structural integrity, it's pretty much a guaranteed an instant crash of the game at this time. So we're going to press in, and that'll help our frame rate a little bit there. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just start at the bottom and just go around. All these walls are pretty much modular. We have a section here with these three big arches here with a little tiny mini arches behind them, followed by a layer right here. Now, I actually built this thing, as I just mentioned, in a modular fashion. So actually, this huge section right here was a module, followed by this big section right here, which was a module. But I'd actually gone ahead, and you can see some of the modules here, built out an awful lot of this by hand, like this whole wall here, and I had started on, I think, about half of this wall here, just block by block, and it got to be a bit too much work to keep on going. So that's why I started doing module stuff, which, by the way, now, when I made my module video, I could take these and drop them, and they'd start dropping, and I could delete them. Well, now, apparently, I cannot do that, so I can't rotate this piece, so I'd have to rebuild it as I was originally doing, where I would build this piece like this, and then build it, a mirrored version of it, the other way, which is why you see some incomplete things like this here, where I got to a point where I couldn't continue building on this piece here without it being completely different than its mirrored version would be. So I was originally going to go ahead and build out this one to complete its mirrored version. Got some other things over here too, by the way, just more sections and pieces you'll be seeing more of in a minute. In fact, if I flew all the way over past this, by the way, that's just the tower, those the big towers that are shooting up. I have some other things over here which are just the mirrored versions of inner parts of those big walls I was looking at. So actually, no, this is still the outer piece, and you see I built the mirrored version of it because I didn't know I could rotate it like I could before, which of course we can't anymore, so I'd have to do this again. So pretty cool stuff, you could use these. Anyway, I've gotten slightly distracted. Let's fly back over to the actual fortress itself. It's not really built to have you walk around in it, so that's why I don't really have a set way to show you a tour through it. It's just sort of a, well, like I said, an experiment with arches and madness, really. On the edges here, with those big pillars, I sort of showed you the modular piece for it. If we were to fly up, you can see they're just a bunch of the same repeating stuff. These are actually the original thing I had built on this fortress. If we were to try to jump down the middle, you can't, because there's a stop and gaps every, I think it was every 20 blocks or so, maybe more. So if we did actually try to jump down, it will eventually hit a little stop gap here. Nothing here, we're still too high up. Actually, no, we do have stuff. As you can see, the actual walls themselves have rooms and stuff stuck into them. But as I said, it's not really complete. I'd like to have this run around here. And then if once I get a corner piece in that matches this arch here, I'd have that stuck in the corner and some other stuff. And possibly have this all bumping out farther too. Don't know. Again, it's an experiment in madness that we shall complete at some point in the future, maybe. Let's also go ahead and go back down to here. So I was talking about the modular thing, so this big section here, followed by this big section here. This section here at the base actually had all these little openings down here. So we'll actually start with this. So you can see, if I go into here, we have a nice high ceiling here where I just have the thin walls on either side. You can look into the center of the structure, which I haven't shown you guys yet. It's like big courtyard areas, more and more arches. Again, tall ceiling stacked on top. A little bit of confusion here because we've actually gone into one of those big center pillars, and then we can actually go out up onto one of these tiny little outcropping areas here. Now that's about it for this, except for if I had built it right, we'd have a stairwell leading up right here to the next floor, the very next floor above it, because it also has more walkways and stuff, so you could have overlook from here as well. So ideally, even this shouldn't even be sealed off right now. It would lead into, come on, I can't even get in here either. into the center tower again. I say center tower, into the side tower again, and there'd be a stairwell in there somehow leading up to this floor, because this floor does have, well, little overlook things somewhere here where you could hide from the rain and shoot arrows out at a massive army that would be attacking this random fortress, which I'd assume would have some purpose to guard an ancient secret or something buried beneath it. This nice bigger room here, if I was to fly out, I can actually show you where it was. So right behind this one here, I believe, is where we had that tiny little room I was talking about hiding from the rain. It's right in there. It's a bit hard to see in this dark. And then we have this bigger room right here with a nice arched ceiling, actually. So if we were to fly in there, you can see an arched ceiling. Heading up even further from this, again, more and more arches even coming out of the walls, going all the way up to the bigger arches. And then we have the top cap here, which was actually, well, it's more thought out than the one we were just on. So if we land here, once again, you can see large amounts of areas where you could be shooting out. A bit hard to see over these. I almost wish there was like a hold control and lean over button so you could look over these edges more easily without having to, well, float up there or ideally even jump up there, which at such a height or even lower normal non-cheaty heights, that might be dangerous. Anyway, carrying on from that, you can see we have, I think, yeah, it's the second floor up, but you can see we can walk into here, and we have these little archways things above us as well. Some structural stuff. I probably should have turned these so it had a long, high ceiling in here like we did on the floor below it, but it does make an interesting view right here, just having all these pillars. Head into here. Here's a high ceiling that I should have done should have done in here. Anyway, we carry on down this. You can see we got all these nice stone arches going over within a little stone window inside it, looking back into the inner courtyard. Carry on over here to the edge though, and we actually have a stairwell. So this stairwell takes us up a floor, and we have an overlook into the center courtyard area a bit. Yeah, a little bit at least. And then we can also go back into here. It leads into another sort of larger room where people could hide from the rain. Maybe there'd be a little table or something. Obviously, I built this before tables were actually in the game, and the few other furniture pieces were in the game, so a lot of this is just empty with speculation. This is a mirrored image of the stairwell we just came up. I didn't even point out we have a nice little bit of railing here. Bit high for interior railing though. But then we come out onto the second balcony here, area here, with the door that leads to the big building, which kind of bugs me because you see these outcrops here. I sort of have them to defend the open doors usually. So the other door here, you can see it's right out in front of it. So maybe one day I'll go back and retweak it so I'll have another one of those arches there, and then mirror that down here and close off some of these openings with little tiny windows like I did on this floor. Pretty cool stuff, I think. And it's a huge amount of work. Now, I've shown you the modular idea between these pieces, and I've shown you the exterior. So now, here, this sort of, well, I should have put a little blocker in here. This is what I was talking about with the piece of stone coming down. I should have put a blocker right in front of the door. Dang it. But now you've seen the outside, let's go ahead and fly up. By the way, we did have a stairwell. I'll just show this really quick, leading us all the way up. That's the center pillar again. All the way up to our very top here that looks over everything. And we even have these little bits of roof. Ugh. Anyway, carrying on to the inside of the modular construct, you also see there is actually a lot of arches and support pillars and nonsense in here. So I started out down here, again, relatively simplistic. The reason you can't see through all this into the other arches is because I did put one of those really thin pieces of wall in there, if I can find it. Yes, like this one here. I went ahead and put one of those in there to cap it all off. That way you wouldn't be seeing straight through it, and it would actually function as a wall. And obviously that is a pretty simple structure. I don't think we can find any of them really in the light, so we can better see it. Over here sort of shows it up. And you can see even on the pillars here, there are arches as well. So pretty much everything here is arches upon arches upon arches. The center area here is all arches as well, obviously. And those even have arches inside those arches. Yeah. And this was actually also two parts here. As you can see, we have a bunch of pretty standard arches, and then we just have nonsensical arches there. It's almost like something art nonsense. Art Deco-y. No, not Art Deco. I don't even know what to call it. But it's clearly not really functional like the ones down here would almost be. Again, if we press in, besides this lag spike, we get a wonderful world of all red where pretty much everything would instantaneously explode. Carrying up to the second modular section of the walls on the backside, you can see the same things we were running around in here a second ago with the rooms I was talking about here. I think I pointed those out, and the fact that the other room was behind this piece. But looking up more, it actually ended up taking an almost dwarven-esque look to it, where we have slightly more hard edges here, where we have these few things, and it sort of all feels like it's supposed to flow downwards into something. I like it a lot. And then, of course, at the top we had all those windows from that one side of the hallway running around that had the high ceiling. And we actually did have this little outlook here that I don't think I actually walked onto that leads into the same area here. Pretty cool stuff. A lot of looping, a lot of modularity, as per usual. Yeah, that's this fortress so far. Down at the bottom, I should point out, we do have those nice little grassy areas. So if we were to go ahead and jump and get to the ground, you can see we have a nice green grassy area with the stairs sort of leading down. Unfortunately, this place is pretty nonsensical, and as I felt I was missing some blocks, I figured let's just abandon it for now. Maybe we'll come back to it in the future and actually put stairwells leading all the way from the bottom to the top. Maybe if they get ladders into the game sometime, then I'll just put these up and down the whole towers. It's completely impractical, but let's be honest, the tower itself is impractical and sort of ridiculous and insane, so why not? Anyway guys, that's it for this place. It's a ridiculous fortress. I know you all want to see some devastation, so really quickly I'm going to do two things. First off, I'll give you a little tiny bit of devastation. That way, if it does decide it wants to crash out instantly as soon as I turn on structural integrity, hopefully you will have seen some... Oh yes, it gets very laggy with something this huge. It's not intended for this at this moment. Anyway, Merrick did say in his blog post that currently the physics engine is only using a small fraction of your CPU because it's not using multi-cores and it's not doing multi-threading, I guess. So they're working on getting that working now, so we'll actually see this thing not be so laggy. As right now, I think it's sort of insane to actually try to wait and see if I can fire a few more of these. Let's actually wait for this dust to clear and then we'll fly down there, see what that one shot did. A lot of this is very, very fragile, obviously. Yeah, very fragile. Lots and lots of wonderful, wonderful lag. Great, my favorite. Alrighty, so there we go. It looks like the majority of the damage has been done, and we're actually no longer lagging out so much, so we can go ahead and look, and that one shot, because this thing is such a fragile mess, even though the structural integrity isn't on, it still caused some cascading failures with lots of stuff being knocked free, shattering apart, and yeah, it actually did some hefty damage. Even all the way down here, you can see it's knocked a lot of stuff free. So let's go ahead and fly out here. And yeah, you can see this whole section here's been knocked out. A lot of pieces here. Yep, because that shot went through and did some hefty damage to the exterior as well. Anyway, guys, you'll probably want to see me turn it on the physics to see what does happen. I'll go ahead and reload this with physics on, but in all likelihood it will crash, so you'll see about 3 frames of that. So I'm just going to do it right now and say thank you a bunch for watching, and I shall see you guys next time.